The chandeliers in the Kong family mansion glittered, casting a warm, golden glow over what Kong Eun-hye believed was her perfect life. At 30, she was the elegant heiress of a respected conglomerate, wife to the charismatic Lee Min-jun, CEO of a booming tech company, and mother to their bright, 6-year-old daughter, Lee Ji-woo. Min-jun, with his charming smile and ambitious drive, was the envy of every man, and Eun-hye, in her quiet grace, felt truly blessed. Her younger sister, Kang Seo-yeon, a seemingly sweet and often nervous woman of the same age, lived a simpler life with her 5-year-old daughter, Kang Hannah, frequently seeking comfort and financial support from Eun-hye. One crisp autumn morning, as the scent of brewing coffee mingled with the faint fragrance of blooming camellias from the garden, Eun-hye found Seo-yeon fidgeting in the ornate sitting room. Hannah, a quiet child, was absorbed in a picture book beside Ji-woo, who was meticulously arranging her doll collection. Eun-hye, could you spare a moment? Seo-yeon began, her voice barely above a whisper, her fingers twisting the hem of her cardigan. Eun-hye smiled warmly, setting down her teacup. Of course, Seo-yeon. What is it? Is everything all right? She always tried to project an air of calm reassurance for her perpetually anxious sister. Seo-yeon wrung her hands. It's just, Hannah needs new school supplies, and her old winter coat is practically threadbare. And the landlord, he's been hounding me about the rent again. Her gaze darted around the opulent room, lingering on a crystal vase before quickly looking away. Eun-hye's brow furrowed slightly. Seo-yeon, we talked about this. You know you don't have to worry about these things. Just send me the list for Hannah's supplies, and I'll have my assistant take care of it. And the rent for your apartment, it's already handled for the next 3 months, remember? Seo-yeon nodded, her shoulders slumping. Yes, I know, Eun-hye. You're always so generous. I feel like such a burden. Nonsense. Eun-hye insisted, reaching across to pat her sister's hand. You're my sister. Family takes care of family. Besides, she added, her voice softening, I worry about you. Why are you always so on edge, even when things are settled? Seo-yeon quickly pulled her hand back, a flicker of something unreadable, fear, guilt, crossing her face before it was replaced by her usual nervous smile. It's nothing, really, just the usual worries. Being a single mother, you know how it is. She offered a weak laugh, but her eyes held a distant, troubled look that Eun-hye couldn't quite decipher. Eun-hye, ever the doting older sister, often wondered why Seo-yeon seemed perpetually on edge, even when offered a lifeline of support. The first tremor in Eun-hye's meticulously constructed world came subtly, a misplaced toy. Ji-woo, with her father's sharp intellect and Eun-hye's gentle features, was her universe. Hannah, Seo-yeon's daughter, was a quiet child, often playing alongside Ji-woo in the sprawling Kong gardens. Eun-hye noticed a striking resemblance between Hannah and Min-jun, not just in their shared light brown eyes, but in a particular way Hannah tilted her head when deep in thought, a mannerism uncannily similar to Min-jun's. She dismissed it as coincidence, a trick of her mind, an uncomfortable thought that she quickly swept aside. Then came the innocuous discovery. One rainy afternoon, while helping Ji-woo clean out her toy box, Eun-hye found a small, worn photograph tucked beneath a stack of coloring books. It was a picture of Min-jun, remarkably younger, with his arm around a laughing Seo-yeon. They looked far more intimate than mere in-laws. Her heart gave a curious lurch, a knot forming in her stomach, but she pushed the unease away. Min-jun and Seo-yeon had known each other for years, ever since Min-jun started working for the Kong Group. Perhaps it was just an old, innocent photo from before I met him, she reasoned, trying to calm the rising tide of suspicion. Later that evening, as Min-jun tucked Ji-woo into bed, Eun-hye watched from the doorway, the photograph still heavy in her mind. Min-jun, she began, her voice carefully casual. Do you remember that old company picnic? The one right after you joined Kong Group? Min-jun paused, adjusting Ji-woo's blanket. Oh yes, of course. Seems like ages ago, doesn't it? Why do you ask? He smiled, a perfectly charming, innocent smile. No reason, Eun-hye replied, her gaze flicking to his hands as he smoothed Ji-woo's hair. Just found an old photo of you and Seo-yeon from around that time. You both looked so young and carefree. She tried to keep her tone light, but a tremor of unease was still present. Min-jun chuckled, a warm, reassuring sound. Ah, Seo-yeon, always so shy back then. We were all quite close when I first started, a tight-knit little team, you know. before all the big corporate changes. He stood up and walked towards Eun-hye, placing a hand gently on her arm. "You're not jealous, are you, my dear? Of a picture from a decade ago." His eyes twinkled playfully, but Eun-hye couldn't quite shake the feeling that his grip on her arm lingered a beat too long. A subtle pressure that felt less like affection and more like a gentle warning. The unraveling, however, was inevitable. It began with an overheard phone call. Eun-hye was fetching a glass of water late one night when she heard Min-jun's hushed voice from his study, laced with an unusual strain. "You need to be more careful, Seo-yun. This is getting out of hand. Think about Hannah." Hannah. Why was he talking about Hannah with such possessiveness? A cold dread began to seep into her bones, chilling her to the core. She paused, hidden by the shadows, listening intently, her breath catching in her throat. She heard Seo-yun's faint, anxious whispers from the other end, something about getting caught and what will happen to her. Eun-hye became an unwitting detective in her own home. She noticed Min-jun's subtle glances at Seo-yun when her sister visited, the way Seo-yun would flinch if Min-jun's name was mentioned too casually. She saw a fleeting, almost imperceptible exchange of glances, a silent language between them that excluded her entirely. The pieces, once scattered and seemingly unrelated, began to click into place with terrifying precision. The hushed whispers, the overprotective way Min-jun treated Hannah, the way Seo-yun always seemed to be around, hovering. Every casual touch, every shared laugh, now felt like a dagger twisting in her gut. The truth, when it finally crashed down, was delivered by the most innocent of messengers. Ji-woo, playing with Hannah one afternoon in Ji-woo's bright, sunlit playroom, innocently asked, "Hannah, why do your appa look like my appa?" Eun-hye froze, her teacup clattering against its saucer. The delicate porcelain spun on the polished table, a stark contrast to the earthquake erupting within her. Her breath hitched. She watched as Hannah, with the same innocent candor, tilted her head, just like Min-jun, just like she had observed countless times before, and replied, "Because appa is our appa, silly. He's both of our papa." Extreme silence descended, broken only by the innocent rustling of the children's picture books. Eun-hye felt the air leave her lungs in a slow, painful exhale. Her gaze snapped from Hannah to Ji-woo, then back to Hannah, searching for any hint of deceit, any glimmer of a misunderstanding. But Hannah's wide, earnest eyes held only childish sincerity. Eun-hye knelt slowly, her knees threatening to buckle. She forced a smile, a brittle mask over the chaos raging inside her. "Hannah, sweetie," she began, her voice a strange, strained whisper she barely recognized as her own. "What did you mean? What did you say about your appa?" Hannah looked up, her brow furrowed in innocent confusion. "Ji-woo asked why my appa looks like her appa, and I said it's because he is our appa. He's our daddy." She pointed between herself and Ji-woo, as if demonstrating the simplest truth in the world. "He told me he's my appa too when he visits." Ji-woo, sensing the sudden shift in atmosphere, looked from her mother's pale face to Hannah. "Yeah, appa gives Hannah piggyback rides sometimes, and he brings her toys just like he brings me toys." The children's voices, usually a symphony of joy, now echoed like a death knell in Eun-hye's ears. The pieces didn't just click, they shattered, leaving her world in fragments. Her perfect life, illuminated by the glittering chandeliers, had just been plunged into a darkness she never imagined. The world spun. Eun-hye felt a tidal wave of nausea, a cold sweat breaking out on her skin. The porcelain teacup slipped from her fingers, shattering on the polished floor, but she didn't even notice. Ji-woo, sensing her mother's sudden stillness and the tension in the air, looked up with concern. "Amma, are you okay?" Eun-hye forced a smile, her lips trembling, her hands shaking as she led the children away. But the words echoed in her mind, a monstrous revelation, screaming louder than the shattered china. "Appa is our appa." She confronted Min-jun that evening, her voice barely a whisper, yet vibrating with controlled fury, a deadly calm before the storm. He had just returned from a board meeting, looking impeccably suave, completely oblivious to the earthquake that had just hit his home. He walked in, loosened his tie, and began to recount a successful negotiation, but Eun-hye cut him off, her voice slicing through his monologue. "Min-jun," she began, her eyes locked on his, a burning intensity in their depths. "Is Hannah your daughter?" He stiffened, his usually composed face paling, the charming facade cracking like ice under pressure. His initial reaction was immediate, vehement denial, a torrent of indignant protests. Eun-hye, what are you talking about? Don't be ridiculous. Are you feeling unwell? This is absurd. He even managed a strained laugh, a pathetic attempt to deflect. Why would you even ask such a thing? It's preposterous. Don't lie to me. Her voice rose, sharp and raw, laced with the agony of betrayal, echoing slightly in the vast living room. Ji-woo and Hannah, they look alike. And today, Hannah just called you Appa. She said you're our Appa. You think I'm blind? You think I'm stupid? Do you think I haven't noticed the way you look at her? The way Seo-yeon flinches when your name comes up? The hushed phone calls late at night. Her voice cracked on the last word, tears pricking at her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She would not give him the satisfaction of seeing her break completely. His eyes, despite his practiced bravado, betrayed him, flickering with fear, revealing a desperate, cornered man. He took a hesitant step back, his shoulders slumping. Eun-hye, please let's calm down. This isn't what you think. Oh, really? She retorted, a bitter laugh escaping her lips. Then what is it, Min-jun? Enlighten me. Is it a happy coincidence that my sister's daughter looks exactly like you? Is it a delightful misunderstanding that she calls you Papa? She took a step towards him, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. Tell me the truth, Min-jun. Now, cornered, with nowhere left to run, Min-jun finally broke. The confession was a torrent of pathetic, self-serving excuses, a pathetic stream of words tumbling out. It was a mistake. Eun-hye, years ago, before we were even married, a moment of weakness with a vulnerable Seo-yeon. She was so lonely, so fragile. You were so busy with your studies abroad, and I was foolish. I swear it meant nothing. It was a momentary lapse. I regretted it immediately. You are my true love. Eun-hye, you are my family. Please, you have to believe me. It was just a lapse in judgment. A fleeting moment I've spent every day of our marriage trying to forget. His words, once so charming, now rang hollow and repulsive, each syllable a fresh wound, each excuse a new insult. He reached out to her, but she recoiled as if burned. A lapse in judgment? Eun-hye repeated, her voice dripping with venom. A momentary lapse that produced a child. Min-jun? A child you've been secretly supporting. A child who calls you Appa under my very roof? What kind of monster are you? The subsequent confrontation with Seo-yeon was a scene of unbridled Korean melodrama. A raw, ugly display of festering resentment. Eun-hye, trembling with a rage she never knew she possessed, stormed into Seo-yeon's modest apartment, the air thick with unspoken accusations. Hannah was thankfully at a friend's house. A small mercy in the unfolding nightmare. How could you, Seo-yeon? Eun-hye's voice was a guttural growl, barely recognizable to herself. How could you do this to me? To Ji-woo? To us? Seo-yeon, initially feigning ignorance and tears, putting on a show of remorse, dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Uni, please, you've misunderstood. It's not what you think. Min-jun and I. It was a long time ago. A mistake. A mistake. Eun-hye's voice rose, cracking with disbelief. A mistake that resulted in a child. So-yeon. A mistake you've hidden from me for 5 years, while you accepted my help, my generosity, my sisterly love. She paced the small living room, her movements agitated, her gaze scathing. You came to my house, you ate at my table, you took my money, all while secretly sleeping with my husband and raising his child. How could you be so cruel? How could you betray me, your own sister, like this? Seo-yeon's sweet facade shattered, revealing a core of bitter envy and cunning. Her eyes, usually downcast, now blazed with a desperate resentment. Because you have everything, Eun-hye, everything, the money, the perfect husband, the perfect life. I had nothing. I always lived in your shadow. The pitiful little sister. Do you know what that feels like? To always be second best? To always need your charity. She spat the word charity like venom. He was just a moment of comfort, a moment where I felt seen, felt important. He looked at me. Eun-yeon. He actually saw me. Not just your little sister who needed handouts. Eun-hye gasped, reeling from the raw malice in Seo-yeon's voice. So, you used him? And you used me? All this time, every tear, every distress call was a lie. Hannah. She deserves a father. Seo Yun shrieked, her voice cracking with a mix of defiance, self-pity, and unadulterated venom. A real father, not some absent stranger. You were always so busy, Uni, so perfect, so focused on your image and your conglomerate. He needed someone who understood him, someone who wasn't so cold, so distant, so wrapped up in their own flawless world. The twisted, cruel justification made Eunhai's anger boil over, threatening to consume her entirely. Cold? Distant? I was busy building a life, Seo Yun. A life I thought we were both a part of. I was always there for you. Always. And you repay me by sleeping with my husband and raising his child behind my back. She felt a primal scream rising in her throat, but all that escaped was a choked sob. You are a monster, Seo Yun. A truly despicable monster. Seo Yun recoiled slightly at the raw intensity of Eunhai's pain, but her defiance quickly returned. Don't you dare call me a monster. I did what I had to do. You wouldn't understand. You've never had to fight for anything in your life. Fight. Eunhai laughed. A harsh, broken sound. You call this fighting? This is deception. This is betrayal of the worst kind. And you will regret this, Seo Yun. I promise you, you will regret every single moment. The mansion, once a sanctuary, became a battlefield. Eunhai, her world in shards, began to unravel. She screamed. She cried. She threw things, the quiet elegance of their home now a backdrop for her raw, unfiltered pain. How dare you, Minjun? How dare you stand there and tell me to pretend it never happened? Eunhai's voice was raw, her throat aching from hours of yelling. She had just hurled a crystal vase, thankfully missing him but shattering against the marble fireplace. You think I can just forget that my husband, the man I loved, had a child with my own sister, while I was living in blissful ignorance, supporting them both? Minjun, desperate to contain the scandal that threatened his carefully constructed public image and his company's stock, tried to appease her with apologies and hollow promises. He stood a safe distance away, his face etched with a performative distress, his hands slightly raised in a placating gesture. Eunhai, please, you're being irrational. Think about our reputation. Think about Jiwoo. Do you want our daughter to grow up in a broken home? We can get through this, we can pretend it never happened. We can manage this. For Jiwoo, my love. For our family. He took a tentative step forward. This is just a bump in the road. A regrettable past. We can overcome it together. Don't you dare touch me, she spat, her eyes blazing, recoiling as if from a viper. Don't you dare invoke Jiwoo's name. You're only thinking about yourself, about your company, about your precious reputation. She mimicked his words with bitter scorn. This isn't about us getting through this, Minjun. This is about your deceit, your lies, your monumental betrayal. You call this a bump? This is an earthquake. My entire life, built on a foundation of lies, has just collapsed. Her chest heaved with emotion. You are a master manipulator now exposed. I see you now, truly see you for the first time. And I am disgusted. Minjun's jaw tightened. Eunhai, you're being emotional. This happened years ago. People make mistakes. I chose you. I married you. I built this life with you. Isn't that what matters? What good will come of destroying everything we have? Destroying everything we have? Eunhai let out a harsh, disbelieving laugh. You destroyed it the moment you touched my sister. You destroyed it the moment you let me believe I had a perfect family, while secretly building another. You talk about mistakes? This wasn't a mistake, Minjun. This was a calculated, prolonged deception. And you expect me to just sweep it under the rug for your convenience. One night, after a particularly vicious argument with Minjun, where he dared to suggest she was overreacting, that the affair was in the past, and she should just move on for Jiwoo's sake, something inside Eunhai snapped. Overreacting? She roared, her voice echoing through the silent mansion, the chandeliers above seeming to mock her with their glittering indifference. My husband has a secret child with my sister, and you tell me I'm overreacting. This isn't a spilled glass of wine, Minjun. This is my entire life, shattered into a million pieces by your actions. And you have the audacity to stand there, so calm, so collected, and tell me to move on? Minjun took a step closer, his voice low, tinged with a dangerous edge of frustration, his patience clearly wearing thin. Eunhai, control yourself. Think of the staff. Think of what Jiwoo might hear. This is simply unproductive. It happened, it's regrettable, but we need to move past it. For Jiwoo's sake, we need to present a united front. She needs her family intact. Do you want her to be ridiculed? To be pitted because her parents couldn't keep their marriage together? Intact? Eun-hye let out a choked, humorless laugh that bordered on a sob. Our family is a lie. It's been a lie for 5 years. You want to move past it? You want me to just move on? How? By pretending Hannah doesn't exist? By pretending Seo-yeon isn't my sister who betrayed me? By pretending you're not a philandering liar who married me for my family's connections while carrying on with my own flesh and blood? Her voice rose to a scream. I can't breathe in this house, in this lie with you. Every corner of this mansion, every glittering surface, feels tainted by your deceit. She snatched her car keys from the console table, her hand trembling so violently she almost dropped them. I need to get out of here. I need to get away from you, from this horror you've created. She fled the house, the grand chandeliers mocking her as she passed beneath them, their golden glow now feeling like a suffocating shroud. She drove aimlessly, the city lights a blur through her tear-filled eyes, the opulent streets of Gangnam feeling suffocating, each familiar landmark a painful reminder of the life she thought she had. She found herself in a dingy, dimly lit bar on the outskirts of the city, a place where no one would recognize the elegant heiress. She slumped onto a worn stool, the cheap plastic digging into her thighs. Soju, she croaked to the bartender, her voice hoarse. A bottle, the cheapest you have. She drank, glass after glass, the burning liquid a temporary salve for the inferno within her. Each gulp was an attempt to drown the images, the words, the searing pain of betrayal. The anger and sorrow were a suffocating weight that threatened to crush her, pushing her further and further into oblivion. The bar's dim lights spun, the muffled conversations of strangers becoming an indistinguishable drone. She felt detached, floating, yet simultaneously anchored by an unbearable ache in her chest. Another one, she slurred to the bartender, pushing her empty glass across the sticky counter. Just one more. Her vision swam, the room tilting precariously. The faces around her blurred into indistinct blobs. She felt the heavy pull of exhaustion, combined with the numbing effect of the alcohol. She stumbled out onto the street, the cool night air hitting her like a slap, but it did little to clear her head. The pavement rushed up to meet her, the world spinning faster and faster until it dissolved into blackness. She fainted, collapsing onto the cold, unforgiving concrete, the weight of her shattered world finally pulling her under. ####, an unlikely encounter. She awoke to the unfamiliar scent of stale cigarette smoke and something earthy, like damp soil. A rough, worn jacket lay draped over her, providing a surprising warmth against the cool night air. She stirred, her head throbbing with a dull ache that resonated with the emotional pain still throbbing in her chest. Opening her eyes, she saw him, Kim Kang-dae. He was sitting on a flattened cardboard box a few feet away, a quiet sentinel in the dim street lamp glow. His clothes were ragged, his hair a bit long, a faint stubble shadowing his jaw, but his eyes, when they met hers, were remarkably clear and surprisingly gentle. He offered no pity, no judgment, just a steady, calm gaze that seemed to see right through her pain, acknowledging it without comment. He was the homeless man who often occupied this particular spot on the street corner, a silent fixture in her peripheral vision whenever her driver took her on this route. He had done nothing but cover her. No questions, no attempts to help her up. Just a silent, respectful presence. Embarrassment washed over her, hot and immediate. A fresh wave of shame that felt even more acute than the betrayal. The heiress collapsed on the street. She quickly sat up, the jacket falling away, revealing her expensive, albeit rumpled, silk blouse. "Thank you," she mumbled, her voice hoarse and raw, barely a whisper. She avoided his gaze, her cheeks burning. Kang-dae simply nodded, a slight, almost imperceptible tilt of his head. He didn't try to engage her, didn't try to take advantage of her vulnerability. He simply existed, a quiet anchor in her storm. He picked up a half-empty bottle of water beside him and offered it to her without a word. Eun-hye hesitated, then took it, her hand trembling slightly as their fingers brushed. The plastic bottle felt cool against her feverish skin. I shouldn't have. She trailed off, unable to articulate the shame of her public breakdown, the utter humiliation of being found in such a state. "I'm so sorry." Kang Dae watched her, his expression unreadable, yet there was a deep understanding in his eyes. He then spoke, his voice surprisingly deep and calm, without a hint of judgment, a voice that seemed to carry the weight of many quiet observations. "Sometimes, the ground feels more honest than the ceiling." Eun-hye looked up sharply, meeting his gaze for the first time. The cryptic words resonated with a painful truth. She had been living under a glittering ceiling of lies. What do you mean?" she asked, her voice still raspy, but laced with a flicker of curiosity despite her humiliation. Kang Dae took a slow breath, the faint scent of stale smoke accompanying his words. "The ground, it doesn't pretend, takes you as you are. The ceiling, it can hide many things." He gestured vaguely upwards, towards the distant, indifferent sky. "People build ceilings to keep things out or to keep things in. But sometimes, they just trap you." Eun-hye stared at him, a strange mix of discomfort and a nascent understanding stirring within her. His words, though simple, cut through the fog of her despair with an unexpected clarity. You saw me?" she asked, the shame returning in full force. He nodded slowly. "Saw a woman who needed a jacket. Nothing more." His eyes held no judgment, only a quiet acceptance. "The night is cold, and sometimes, a fall is just a way to find your feet again, on different ground." She clutched the water bottle, a strange, unexpected gift, feeling a profound sense of exposure, yet also a peculiar, unsettling comfort. She wanted to ask him more, to understand the quiet wisdom in his eyes, to confess the crushing weight of her betrayal, but the overwhelming urge to escape, to disappear from this humiliating scene, was too strong. The thought of anyone she knew seeing her like this was unbearable. She scrambled to her feet, the sudden movement making her head swim. I have to go." She couldn't bring herself to offer him money. It felt like an insult to the quiet dignity he possessed. What could she offer a man who seemed to possess a piece she had lost? The shame of her public collapse outweighed even her immense pain. She turned and fled, leaving him sitting there, a silent witness to her unraveling, his words echoing in the empty street. "Sometimes, the ground feels more honest than the ceiling." The image of his calm eyes, his unexpected kindness, lingered. The mansion felt suffocating, filled with the ghosts of betrayal and Min-jun's desperate, hollow attempts at reconciliation. His focus was clearly on damage control for his company and reputation, not on her shattered heart. He'd even suggested family counseling, a desperate attempt to portray a united front to the media. The thought of it made her gag. After another heated argument at home, a bitter exchange about finances and public perception. "Eun-hye, you're being unreasonable. This will ruin everything. Our investments, the company's image, Jiwoo's future," Min-jun had pleaded, his voice tinged with panic, not remorse. Eun-hye, unable to sleep, found herself drawn back to the spot where she had fainted. Kang Dae was there, as usual, a quiet silhouette under the street lamp, a faint glow from a dying cigarette ember near his hand. She hesitated for a moment, clutching her expensive handbag, the stark contrast between them almost comical. Then, she slowly sat on a nearby bench, a safe distance away, but close enough to feel his quiet presence. They didn't speak at first, just existed in comfortable silence. The city hummed around them, a distant, muffled roar, but here, in this small pocket of stillness, a strange peace settled. Slowly, tentatively, Eun-hye began to speak. Her voice was low, broken, pouring out her pain into the night. She didn't expect a response, just an outlet for the poison festering within her. "It's like my whole life was a lie," she whispered, the words catching in her throat, raw with emotion. Her gaze was fixed on the chipped pavement. "Everything I thought was real, everything I built, it was all just a beautiful cage, a gilded prison." She recounted Min-jun's betrayal, Seo-yun's cunning, the shattering of her perfect life, the details tumbling out in a desperate rush. "He said it was a mistake, a momentary lapse. My own sister, Seo-yun, she looked me in the eye and said I was cold, that he needed someone who understood him. Can you believe such audacity?" A bitter laugh escaped her. "Under my own roof, smiling at me, while secretly living another life with my husband. It's a nightmare I can't wake up from." She spoke of Jiwoo, her precious daughter, and the crushing fear that this monstrous truth would taint her innocence. She's so pure, Kangdae. So innocent. She loves her father so much. How do I protect her from this ugliness? How do I explain that her own aunt and father, they did this? That her little cousin is her half-sister? Her voice broke, a fresh wave of tears finally spilling down her cheeks. What do I do? How do I live with this? How do I even begin to pick up the pieces when the foundation itself is rotten? She looked at him then, her eyes pleading for an answer, any answer, from this stranger who seemed to hold more truth than anyone in her gilded world. Kangdae listened, his gaze steady, his presence solid. He occasionally offered a quiet, insightful comment or a nod of understanding. He never judged, never interrupted, never offered empty platitudes. He simply heard her, truly heard her, in a way no one else had in weeks, perhaps even years. His quiet empathy was a balm to her raw wounds. He didn't offer solutions, just shared the weight of her burden, making it feel a little less crushing. As she recounted the sting of Minjun's cold indifference, his calculated concern for his reputation over her pain, the way he had tried to manipulate her with talk of Jiwoo's future, Kangdae simply said, his voice soft but firm. He sounds like a man who lives by numbers, profit and loss, reputation, not by the truth of things. He paused, stirring a small cup of instant coffee with a twig. Some people only see what serves them. They build their world on appearances, on what looks good from the outside. You see with your heart. And that's a strength they'll never understand. It's why it hurts so much. His words, simple yet heartfelt, made her feel seen, truly seen. For the first time in a long time, they chipped away at the shame, replacing it with a fragile sense of validation. But how do I live with this heart? Kangdae? She whispered, clutching the warm cup of instant coffee he had just handed her. The warmth seeping into her chilled hands, a small gesture that meant the world. It feels like it's been ripped open. Every memory, every touch, every word. It's all tainted. How do I trust anyone again? Kangdae took a sip of his own coffee, his gaze distant, as if looking into his own past. Trust is a fragile thing, Eun-hye. Once broken, it's never quite the same. But that doesn't mean you stop living. It means you learn to build new foundations. Stronger ones this time. Ones that aren't built on pretty lies. He turned his clear eyes back to her. The pain, it's real. It's meant to be felt. It's how you know what was true, even if it was only true for you. I don't know who I am anymore, she confessed, the words tumbling out. I was Kang Eun-hye, the heiress, Lee Min-jun's perfect wife, Jiwoo's devoted mother. Now I'm just a woman whose life is a sham, a fool. How do I even face the world? Kangdae leaned back against the wall, his voice a low rumble. Those were titles, Eun-hye, labels. They don't define you. The person who feels this pain, who seeks truth, who worries about her daughter's innocence. That's who you are. That's the real you, emerging from under all those layers. It's a painful birth, perhaps, but it's a birth nonetheless. He paused, then added, and as for facing the world, you face it one step at a time, and you choose which world you want to face. These late-night conversations became Eun-hye's lifeline. She found a strange comfort in the anonymity of the streets and the quiet, unwavering presence of Kangdae. He was a stark contrast to the opulence and deceit of her world. He had nothing, yet he offered her a rooted sense of peace and genuine human connection. He spoke little of himself, hinting at a past that had left him on the streets, a past he carried with a quiet dignity. But his words were always insightful, imbued with a wisdom born of hardship. He felt more real, more honest, than anyone she had ever known in her privileged life. He was the ground, steady and true, beneath her shattered ceiling. End of part 1. #the battle for Jiwoo. As Eun-hye slowly started to reclaim a semblance of her strength, a quiet resolve hardening within her, Min-jun's desperation grew. The news of the affair, though still contained within their immediate circles, was a ticking time bomb for his company's stock and his carefully cultivated image. He shifted tactics from placation to aggressive legal maneuvers. The divorce proceedings were brutal, a public spectacle fueled by Min-jun's ruthless determination to protect his reputation and company. His lawyers, sharp and predatory, wasted no time in launching their offensive. Mrs. Kong, Min-jun's lead attorney, a man with a perpetually smug expression, began during a tense pre-trial mediation session. Mr. Lee is prepared to offer a very generous settlement, a sum that would ensure your financial security for the rest of your life and Jiwoo's future, without any further public unpleasantness. He pushed a thick document across the polished table. However, given recent events, Mr. Lee believes it is in Jiwoo's best interest for him to retain full custody. Eun-hye, seated opposite Min-jun, who maintained a facade of pained concern, felt a cold fury ignite within her. She looked at the document, then directly at Min-jun. Full custody? After what you've done? Her voice was low, but steady. Min-jun leaned forward, his voice dripping with condescension and feigned concern. A performance for the lawyers present. Eun-hye, please, let's be rational. This isn't about what I've done. This is about Jiwoo. You've been unstable, erratic, running off in the middle of the night, associating with people like him. He made a dismissive gesture, clearly referring to Kang Dae. What kind of example is that for our daughter? Do you want Jiwoo growing up with a mother who disgraces herself in public, who seeks solace with street dwellers? It's irresponsible, Eun-hye, and frankly quite disturbing. A mother needs to be a pillar of stability, not a source of scandal. Eun-hye's hands clenched under the table. Unstable? Erratic? She repeated, her voice rising with indignation. You call my reaction to your monumental betrayal unstable? You call seeking a moment of peace away from your lies erratic? And you dare to judge the character of a man who showed me more kindness in one night than you have in years. Her eyes flashed, meeting Min-jun's cold gaze head-on. The only disgrace here, Min-jun, is your hypocrisy. You want to talk about examples for Jiwoo? What kind of example is a father who lies, cheats, and has a secret family? A father who then tries to steal his legitimate daughter from her mother to protect his own pathetic image. Min-jun's lawyer interjected smoothly. Mrs. Kong, your personal feelings, while understandable, are not relevant to the child's welfare. Mr. Lee has a stable home, a strong financial standing, and a consistent public image. These are crucial for a child's upbringing. And what about emotional stability? Eun-hye shot back, her gaze unwavering from Min-jun. What about honesty, integrity? Are those not crucial for a child's upbringing? My daughter deserves a mother who fights for the truth, not one who hides behind lies and public image. And she deserves a father who doesn't use her as a pawn in his corporate games. Min-jun scoffed. You're being dramatic, Eun-hye. This is about protecting Jiwoo from unnecessary hardship, from the inevitable whispers. Do you truly believe you can provide a stable environment for her right now? You're clearly not well. I am perfectly well enough to fight for my daughter, Eun-hye declared, her voice ringing with newfound conviction. The quiet wisdom of Kang Dae's words echoed in her mind. Some people only see what serves them, you see with your heart. And I will not let you use my pain, your own making, to take her from me. You want to talk about public image, Min-jun? Let's talk about the truth. Let's talk about the real reason you want full custody. It's not for Jiwoo's sake. It's for yours. And I will expose every single one of your lies to protect my daughter. She pushed the settlement document back across the table, her hand steady. This generous offer is nothing but a bribe, and I refuse to be bought. We'll see each other in court. Eun-hye's blood ran cold, a furious tremor running through her. The thought of losing Jiwoo, the only pure thing left in her life, was unbearable. A pain far deeper than any betrayal. How dare you? She retorted, her voice shaking with barely suppressed fury, her eyes blazing at Min-jun across the mediation table. You're the one who disgraced this family, Min-jun. You're the one who lied and cheated. You're the one who fathered a child with my own sister. A child you kept secret for 5 years. And now you dare to question my love for Jiwoo? Don't you dare. She is my world. And I will fight you with every breath in my body. You will not take her from me. Minjun merely smirked, a cold, calculating glint in his eyes. We'll see, Eunhye. The courts tend to favor stability, and a mother who spends her nights on the streets with vagrants hardly projects stability. Think carefully about this. You can walk away with a fortune, or you can lose everything, including your daughter, in a very public, very messy battle. ####, the sisters' public betrayal. The divorce proceedings escalated into a full-blown public spectacle. Every detail, every accusation, was meticulously crafted by Minjun's legal team. And then came Seo Yun's testimony. Seo Yun, true to her manipulative nature, testified, subtly twisting facts to make Minjun seem like a victim of her seduction, while still clinging to him for Hannah's sake, hoping to secure her daughter's future through his continued involvement. She sat on the witness stand, a picture of demure sorrow. Eunhye. She was always so focused on her career, so busy with her social obligations. Seo Yun sniffled, dabbing at fake tears with a silk handkerchief, her voice soft and trembling, designed to evoke sympathy. Minjun Appa, he was lonely. He felt neglected. He tried so hard to connect with Uni, but she was always so distant. She paused, a dramatic sigh escaping her lips. It was a moment of weakness for both of us, fueled by my own desperation, by my desire for a family for Hannah. We were both vulnerable. She cast a fleeting, almost imperceptible glance at Minjun, who looked suitably grave. But he always tried to make things right for Eunhye, she continued, her voice gaining a touch of earnestness. He even tried to counsel her about her strange late-night habits, her disappearances from the house. He was worried about her mental state, about her judgment. The betrayal cut deeper than a knife. A final, public stab from her own flesh and blood, twisting the narrative to paint Eunhye as the villain, unstable and unfit. Eunhye sat in the courtroom, numb with shock and rage, watching her sister systematically dismantle her character. #### despair on the streets. One evening, after a particularly devastating court session where Minjun's lawyer ruthlessly painted her as an unfit mother, using selectively edited surveillance photos of her with Kangdae and distorted testimonies, Eunhye found herself back on the bench beside Kangdae, tears streaming down her face, her body racked with despair. The cold concrete felt like the only solid thing left in her crumbling world. He's going to take her. Kangdae, she sobbed, her voice thick with pure anguish, her hands trembling as she clutched at her knees. He's going to take Jiwoo. His lawyers. They made me sound like a lunatic. Soyun. She just lied and lied, painting me as this cold, uncaring wife. They used everything against me. My grief, my pain, even you. She buried her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking uncontrollably. I can't lose her. She's all I have left. My world will truly end if I lose Jiwoo. Kangdae remained silent for a long moment, letting her tears flow, letting her despair wash over her. He reached into his worn bag and pulled out a clean, if slightly rumpled, handkerchief, offering it to her. Eunhye took it, pressing it to her eyes. What do I do? What can I possibly do against his power, his money? He has everyone on his side. He controls the narrative. I'm just a woman who's been betrayed, and now I'm losing my child because of it. Her voice was a broken whisper. Is there truly no justice in this world? Am I truly so powerless? She looked up at him, her eyes red and swollen, a desperate plea for hope in their depths. Tell me, Kangdae, what do I do? Kangdae listened, his hand, calloused and worn, resting gently on her arm, a silent, comforting weight. His eyes, usually so calm, now held a flicker of fierce determination, a resolve she had never seen before, a fire that seemed to ignite in response to her raw anguish. He made a decision, a quiet promise settling over him like a cloak, a silent vow to himself and to her. He knew he had to prove himself, not just to her, but to the world, to that cold, judging court that measured worth in currency and connections. Eunhye, he said, his voice low but firm, cutting through her despair like a beacon. He gently lifted her chin with his free hand, his thumb brushing away a tear, forcing her to meet his gaze. His eyes were intense, unwavering. Look at me, Eunhye. I may have nothing now by their standards. I don't have a mansion, or a company, or a fancy suit. He looked down at his worn hands, then back up at her. But I have my hands, my mind, and my heart, and they are yours. I will work. I will build a life for us. For you and Jiwoo. A life built on truth, not on lies and appearances. He squeezed her arm gently. They say I'm a street dweller, a vagrant. Let them say it. What matters is what we know. What matters is what we build. I will prove to them that love and stability are not measured by money or status, but by honesty, by dedication, by the strength of what's truly inside. His voice was a quiet vow under the vast, indifferent sky. Just trust me. Will you trust me, Eunhye? Will you let me stand with you? Eunhye looked at him, tears still in her eyes, a mix of hope and disbelief warring within her. His words, so simple, so direct, yet so profoundly resonant, pierced through the layers of her pain. Kang Dae. The words were barely a whisper, a question and a plea, a fragile thread of hope emerging from the depths of her despair. His unwavering belief in her, in them, was a powerful, unfamiliar sensation. For the first time since her world shattered, she felt a flicker of hope, a warmth spreading from his touch through her heart. It was a promise built not on wealth or status, but on raw, unshakable love and a quiet, deep dedication. You would do that? She asked, her voice trembling. For me? For Jiwoo? Kang Dae nodded, his gaze unwavering. For you. For Jiwoo. For a life that is real. I may not have a grand plan right now, Eunhye, but I have a will. And I have you. And that is more than enough. He offered a small, genuine smile, a smile that reached his clear eyes. We will find our own ground, a stronger one. Together. She nodded, tears still flowing. But now, mixed with a nascent, fragile hope. A single tear traced a path down her cheek. But this one felt different, less of sorrow, more of a release. I trust you, Kang Dae. The words were a quiet commitment, a leap of faith into the unknown. But for the first time in a long time, it felt like she was stepping towards something real. His hand tightened on her arm, a silent affirmation of their shared path. The cold concrete beneath them no longer felt unforgiving, but like solid ground. Kang Dae, true to his word, embarked on a relentless pursuit of work. He started with odd jobs, manual labor, anything to earn an honest living. He cleaned, he moved boxes in the bustling markets, his back aching, his breath misting in the cold morning air. He worked tirelessly at construction sites, his muscles screaming by evening, but his spirit resolute, saving everyone. He was disciplined, determined, driven by a quiet promise he had made to Eunhye and to himself. He rented a tiny, sparse room in a cheap lodging house, a single bare bulb illuminating his meager belongings. But it was a first step towards stability, a foundation for their new future. He didn't just find a job. He carved a path, brick by painstaking brick, with sheer will and unwavering purpose. One evening, after a particularly grueling day, Eunhye found him sitting on his cardboard box, nursing a bruised hand. Kang Dae SSI, you're working too hard, she said, her voice laced with concern, offering him a small, pre-packaged meal she'd bought. He looked up, a tired but genuine smile touching his lips. It's honest work, Eunhye, and it's a start. Everyone earned is a step towards a new ceiling, one we build ourselves. He gestured to his hand. Just a small reminder that the ground can be hard, but it's firm. Eunhye, inspired by his unwavering resolve, found her own strength, a strength she hadn't known she possessed. She stopped wallowing in self-pity and began to actively fight for Jiwoo, fueled by a renewed sense of purpose. She dismissed her previous, timid lawyers and hired a new one, attorney Lee Miare, a fierce, tenacious woman known for her uncompromising pursuit of justice rather than her connections. Ms. Kang, attorney Lee had stated in their first meeting, her gaze sharp and direct, your husband's tactics are clear. Discredit you, secure custody, and minimize public fallout. We will not play his game. We will expose the truth, unvarnished and undeniable. Are you prepared for that? I am, Eunhye replied, her voice firm, a new steel in her eyes. I am prepared for anything to protect my daughter. Eunhye meticulously gathered evidence, documenting Minjun's controlling behavior, his emotional manipulation, and Seo Yun's deceit. She presented a clear, unvarnished truth, exposing the callousness and calculated nature that lay beneath Minjun's polished exterior. She brought forth text messages, bank statements showing payments to Seo Yun, and even old diary entries that subtly hinted at Seo Yun's long-standing envy. During one particularly tense court session, Minjun's lawyer tried to dismiss her evidence. "Your Honor, this is merely the emotional outburst of a disgruntled spouse. There is no concrete proof of Mr. Lee's alleged controlling behavior or emotional manipulation." Eun-hye stood, her voice clear and strong. "With all due respect, counsel, emotional manipulation doesn't leave fingerprints, but it leaves scars. And the evidence of Mr. Lee's financial support to my sister, the timing of Hannah's birth, and the striking resemblance. These are not emotional outbursts. These are facts. Facts that Mr. Lee has gone to great lengths to conceal, precisely because they threaten his stable image." She looked directly at Minjun, her gaze unwavering. "He is not fighting for Jiwoo's welfare, Your Honor. He is fighting for his reputation. And I am fighting for my child." The custody battle raged, but Eun-hye was no longer the fragile, naive heiress. She was a mother fighting for her child, fueled by a love she now understood to be unconditional and fierce, a lioness protecting her cub. She began bringing Jiwoo to meet Kangdae sometimes, initially just for brief, supervised interactions in a local park. Jiwoo, initially wary of the quiet, strangely dressed man, slowly, almost imperceptibly, began to warm to him. "Ama, why does he sit on the ground?" Jiwoo had asked once, pointing at Kangdae from a distance. "Because he chooses to, sweetie," Eun-hye had explained softly. "Sometimes the ground is a good place to be. It's honest." Kangdae was patient, never pushing, always kind. He would tell her simple stories about the animals he saw on the streets, draw funny pictures in the dirt with a stick, and listen intently to her childish chatter, his eyes full of genuine warmth. One afternoon, Jiwoo, usually reserved, ran up to Kangdae with a brightly colored drawing. "Look, Ajushi. It's a flower." Kangdae knelt, his face lighting up. "It's a beautiful flower, Jiwoo. What kind is it?" "A happy one," she declared, beaming. "It certainly is," he said, and Eun-hye watched as he carefully tucked the drawing into his worn jacket pocket, a gesture of tenderness. It was a small moment, but it solidified something in Eun-hye's heart. This man, with nothing but kindness and integrity, was building a bridge to her daughter, a bridge that Minjun, with all his wealth and power, could never hope to construct. The love growing between them was quiet, unassuming, but it was real, and it was everything. One afternoon, while playing near a fountain in a bustling park, Jiwoo, chasing a brightly colored ball, stumbled and scraped her knee on the rough pavement, letting out a sharp cry that echoed through the park. Before Eun-hye could react, her heart leaping into her throat, Kangdae was there, kneeling down beside the sobbing child, his brow furrowed with genuine concern. "It's all right, little one," he murmured, his voice gentle and soothing, as he carefully examined her knee already reddening. He pulled out a worn but clean handkerchief, then a small, neatly folded bandage from his pocket, a testament to his preparedness. "See? A brave knight needs a brave bandage, right? To protect her noble knee from dragons and scraped pavements." He offered a small, reassuring smile. Jiwoo, tearful moments before, giggled through her sniffles, captivated by his quiet strength and unexpected playfulness. She watched, fascinated, as he expertly applied the bandage. "Does it hurt, Ajushi?" she asked, pointing to her knee. "Only a little," Kangdae replied. "But brave knights are strong, and brave bandages help them heal faster." He then pulled a small, smooth pebble from his other pocket. "This is a magic stone. If you hold it, it will make the hurt go away faster." Jiwoo took the stone, her eyes wide with wonder, completely forgetting her pain. He had a way with her, a quiet understanding that bypassed words, filling the void left by a father who had betrayed them both. After that day, Jiwoo started asking, her voice full of newfound affection, "Ama, can Appa, Kangdae come play with us again? He knows about knights and magic stones." It was a small shift, a ripple in their new world. But to Eun-hye, it felt like the sun breaking through the darkest clouds, a sign that healing was truly possible. Minjun, seeing his carefully constructed image crumble under Eun-hye's newfound resolve and the relentless pursuit of Attorney Lee, began to panic. His company stocks took a significant hit as whispers of the scandal began to spread, fueled by Eun-hye's increasingly public and defiant stance. Board members started to question his judgment, his carefully cultivated reputation as a visionary CEO now tarnished. During a particularly acrimonious court session, Minjun, his face pale and drawn, leaned over to his lawyer. This is getting out of hand. My investors are calling. We need to settle this now. His lawyer, looking equally stressed, whispered back. She's relentless, Mr. Lee, and her new attorney is formidable. The evidence she's compiled, it's damaging. Seo Yun, seeing Min Jun's downfall and realizing her own manipulative attempts had backfired, tried desperately to distance herself from him, even going so far as to publicly state she was a victim of circumstance and Mr. Lee's powerful influence. But the damage was done. The truth, ugly and messy, was out for the world to see, splashed across tabloids and whispered in corporate hallways. The divorce was eventually finalized. Eun-hye secured primary custody of Ji-woo, with Min Jun receiving limited, supervised visitation, a hollow victory for him, a stark symbol of his diminished power. The judge, in her ruling, cited Eun-hye's demonstrated commitment to her child's emotional well-being over superficial appearances, and Min Jun's pattern of deceptive behavior. It's over. Ji-woo is safe, Eun-hye whispered to Attorney Lee outside the courthouse, a sweeping weariness mixed with relief washing over her. It's a partial victory, Ms. Kong, Attorney Lee replied, a rare, small smile on her face. But a significant one. You fought with integrity, and it made all the difference. The massive financial settlement, once a point of contention, now felt utterly irrelevant. Eun-hye, for the first time in her life, started to understand that true wealth lay not in material possessions, but in integrity, love, and genuine human connection. The mansion, once a symbol of her perfect life, now felt like a gilded cage she was finally free from. She began the process of selling it, opting for a smaller, cozier home. Kang Dae continued to work, steadily climbing from odd jobs to a stable and respected position at a construction company. His dedication and intelligence quickly recognized. He was promoted, then given more responsibility, his quiet competence speaking volumes. His hidden past, once a mystery, slowly revealed itself to Eun-hye in their late-night talks. He had been a promising young architect, his career and life derailed by a devastating personal tragedy. A building collapse that, while not his fault, had cost him everything, leaving him shattered and on the streets, unable to face the world he once built. I lost everything, Eun-hye, he confessed one night, his voice tinged with old pain. My family, my career, my sense of self. I thought I deserved to be on the ground, to be nothing. But you're not nothing, Kang Dae, Eun-hye replied, reaching for his hand, intertwining her fingers with his calloused ones. You're the most real person I know. You built yourself back up, from nothing. And you helped me do the same. His resilience, his quiet strength, his unwavering kindness, only deepened her admiration and love for him. He often said, his eyes full of a quiet wisdom, my past doesn't define my future, Eun-hye. What matters is what we build now, today, together. A future built on honesty, not facades, not on what others expect, but on what we truly are. Their love, born from the ashes of betrayal and despair, was a quiet, sincere force, a testament to the unexpected places where true connection can be found. It was a love built on understanding, respect, and the shared journey of finding honesty. Ji-woo, initially still attached to her biological father, slowly, naturally, began to gravitate towards Kang Dae. He was a constant, stable presence, unlike her father, who was often consumed by his work and now, his legal battles and public image, his visits becoming increasingly sporadic and strained. Kang Dae taught her how to ride a bicycle in the quiet neighborhood park, patiently guiding her, his hands steady on the seat, until she pedaled on her own, her joyful shouts echoing through the trees. Look, Appa Kang Dae, I'm flying, she'd shriek, a wide, uninhibited grin on her face. You are little bird, he'd respond, his eyes crinkling at the corners, a genuine warmth radiating from him. Just keep pedaling, and don't look down. He helped her with her homework, explaining complex math problems with simple analogies, drawing diagrams on scrap paper. Think of it like building a house, Jiwooya, he'd say, sketching a simple blueprint. Each number is a brick. You need to put them in the right order to make it stand strong. And most importantly, he listened to her with unwavering attention, truly hearing her dreams and fears, her endless stories about school and her friends. One evening, as he read her a bedtime story, Ji-woo snuggled closer. Kang Dae Appa, she whispered, her voice full of warmth and genuine affection, hugging him tightly. You always make me laugh, and you listen to my stories the best. You're my favorite Appa. He gently stroked her hair, a silent, loving anchor, the title Appa now belonging to him in her heart. Eun-hye, the wealthy heiress, made a choice that stunned her social circle and dominated gossip corners. She abandoned the life that had given her everything material but had also caused her immense pain and suffocating emptiness. She sold the sprawling mansion. The very chandeliers that once glittered over her perfect life now seemed to mock her with their false brilliance, and cut ties with the superficial world of the elite. The endless charity galas, the strained smiles at exclusive clubs, the hollow conversations about stocks and status, all seemed trivial and repulsive now. She moved into a modest, sun-drenched apartment in a quiet, tree-lined neighborhood with Ji-woo and Kang-dae. The space was smaller, cozier, filled with laughter and genuine warmth instead of echoing emptiness. They ate simple meals together, cooked in their small kitchen, and spent evenings reading or playing board games. Her parents, initially horrified by her unconventional choices and the perceived disgrace, had tried to intervene. "Eun-hye, what are you doing?" her father had exclaimed during a tense phone call, his voice laced with exasperation. "Selling the mansion? Moving into that kind of neighborhood? And living with him? Have you lost your mind? What will people say?" "People will say what they want, Appa," Eun-hye replied calmly, a newfound resilience in her tone. "I'm building a life that is real, not one that is just for show." And Kang-dae, he is more of a man than Min-jun ever was. He is honest, he is kind, and he loves Ji-woo. Her mother, initially more distraught, had come to visit the new apartment, her eyes wide with apprehension. She watched Kang-dae patiently teach Ji-woo to draw, his head bent close to hers, their laughter soft and genuine. She saw Eun-hye, dressed in comfortable clothes, her face free of the strained tension that had become her constant companion in the mansion, a genuine smile lighting her eyes. One afternoon, as Kang-dae and Ji-woo were absorbed in their drawing, her mother pulled Eun-hye aside, tears welling in her eyes. "Eun-hye," she confessed, her voice thick with emotion, "I never thought I'd see you so truly happy, so genuinely at peace. For so long, you carried such a heavy burden, always striving for perfection. He makes you shine, my daughter." She looked at Kang-dae, then back at Eun-hye, a understanding dawning in her eyes. "He truly sees you, doesn't he? Not the heiress, not the wife of a powerful CEO, just you." Eun-hye smiled, a deep, contented smile that reached her eyes. "Yes, Amma. He sees me, and I see him, and that's all that matters." It was a life stripped bare of pretense, but overflowing with the kind of wealth that truly mattered. Love, honesty, and a sense of belonging. The last scene unfolds with a quiet, profound beauty. Years had passed since Eun-hye had walked away from the gilded cage of her former life, each one a testament to the strength she had found in honesty and true connection. One crisp autumn morning, a gentle sunlight streamed into their cozy apartment, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. Eun-hye sat by the window, a cup of warm tea in her hands, her eyes soft with contentment, a radiant smile on her face. She gently stroked her visibly rounded belly, a new life blossoming within her, a beautiful, tangible symbol of their unconventional love and resilient, fiercely forged family. Kang-dae entered the room, his hand still bearing the faint scent of sawdust from a small carpentry project he was working on in their new, humble workshop. He knelt beside her, his hand instinctively reaching for her swollen belly. "How is our little architect and their mother doing today?" he murmured, his voice a low, tender rumble. Eun-hye chuckled, leaning into his touch. "We're wonderful, Kang-dae SSI. Just wonderful. This little one is certainly making their presence known." She looked at him, her eyes shining. "I never imagined this kind of happiness. It feels so much more real than anything I had before." "Because it is real, Eun-hye," he said, pressing a soft kiss to her forehead. "Built on solid ground, brick by honest brick." The years continued to pass, weaving a tapestry of quiet joy and enduring love. A sun-drenched afternoon in a vibrant park, alive with the laughter of children and the murmur of conversations. Ji-woo, now a bright and confident teenager, her long hair catching the sunlight, with a playful spirit that mirrored Kang-dae's quiet humor, laughed as she watched a toddler, a little boy with Kang-dae's quiet, observant eyes and Eun-hye's gentle smile, toddle across a grassy field, chasing a brightly colored ball. "Go, Min-jae! You can do it!" Ji-woo cheered, clapping her hands. The little boy, Min-jae, giggled, his short legs pumping furiously. He tripped over his own feet, letting out a surprised squeal, a tiny puff of dust rising around him. Before he could even register a cry, Kangdae was there in an instant, his movements swift and sure, scooping him up into his strong arms. "My little warrior," Kangdae chuckled, bouncing the boy gently, who immediately dissolved into delighted giggles, wrapping his chubby arms around Kangdae's neck. "Always charging ahead, aren't you?" Jiwoo walked over, a fond smile on her face. "He gets that from you, Appa Kangdae. Always building something, even if it's just a pile of dirt." Kangdae ruffled Min-jae's hair. "And he gets his adventurous spirit from his big sister, doesn't he?" Eun-hye approached them, a picnic basket in her hand, her face serene, etched with the lines of experience but radiating peace. "Are my 3 favorite people ready for some snacks?" she asked, her voice warm and melodious. Min-jae immediately reached for her, babbling excitedly. Kangdae carefully handed him over. "He's been working hard, chasing that ball," he said, his eyes full of adoration for his son. It is their son, a living testament to the love that had blossomed from the most unlikely of circumstances. The last shot is of a family of 4. Eun-hye, radiant and grounded, her arm linked with Kangdae's. Kangdae, steady and strong, his presence a comforting warmth beside her. Jiwoo, blooming into a confident young woman, her laughter light and free, and their toddler son, Min-jae, full of boundless energy, his hand firmly clasped in Kangdae's other hand. Jiwoo holds Kangdae's free hand, swinging it playfully, their laughter echoing in the crisp afternoon air. As they walked towards the grand entrance of a bustling amusement park, the cheerful music and dazzling lights already visible in the distance, Eun-hye leaned her head on Kangdae's shoulder, a sense of belonging and utter peace washing over her. The scent of popcorn and distant screams of joy filled the air. "This," she thought, a tear of pure, unadulterated joy escaping the corner of her eye, tracing a warm path down her cheek. "This is everything. This is my true perfect life." She squeezed Kangdae's arm, and he squeezed hers back, a silent conversation of enduring love and gratitude. The dazzling lights and cheerful music of the park grew louder as they disappeared into the crowd, a beacon of simple joy and enduring love, a testament to a love story that defied expectations, overcame betrayal, and redefined the true meaning of family, proving that true happiness could be found on the most honest ground.